Dr. Winbush, can you describe what or who supports ADOS? Some of it has already been covered, but there may
Right.
be more. How has it been captivated by a small but influential sector of Black people, including Ice Cube? And these entertainers have used this for supporting or justifying their support of Trump, saying that the Democrats have failed us, and therefore what we must do is rely on the Donald's administration. Some celebrity apologists have even gone so far as to say that Trump is a greater president than Obama, who he despises, who Trump despises. What do you think is behind this kind of support for Trump?
Well, again, if you, as Nadia pointed out, you got these two groups, the PFIR as well as FAIR, these anti-immigration white supremacist group backing them. Keep in mind that one of the things that Ado says a lot of, they use the hashtag tangibles, saying that if we don't get reparations, so then they start attacking the reparations struggle. That's where I've had some problems with them, but we'll get into that as well. But if they say tangibles, they're saying if the Democrats don't support reparations, don't vote for them. So it's a very clever voter suppression tech, tactic to get black folk not to vote. And I've seen on social media a lot of black people, they're not even affiliated with ADOS. I ain't gonna vote because they both crazy. You know, I ain't voting for either one of them. That's what ADOS wants. And specifically the white supremacists that are backing ADOS, that's what they want. So they know that if they can suppress the black vote, step one, then get Donald Trump reelected, step two, they can accomplish step three, which is the anti-immigration laws that he has already implemented and going to go further with. So, I mean, it's an insidious movement because there's so many levels to it. But the primary backers, as Nadia says, have been PFIR and FAIR. There's one video of Yvette on uh, YouTube, poor thing. She's actually wrapped herself in the American flag. You know, the what I call the, as you call, Baba, the American rag. Not the red, black, and green of Garvey or anything like that, but the red, white, and blue of our oppressors. And she, you know, as Nadia pointed out, I hate to say it, but it's almost like we want white privilege. We don't want to be connected to Africa at all, at any level. I argued with one because, you know, there's an organization in the Caribbean called CARICOM, and they're pushing for reparations too. And they have said to me, well, Winbush, if CARICOM is pushing for reparations in the Caribbean, you should be supporting ADOS here in the United States. The fact of the matter is that CARICOM and NARC and Cobra, we're all working together. But they don't choose to say that. I mean, Sir Hilary Beckles, who's kind of the titular head of CARICOM, he and I gave a workshop in Scotland, of all places. And Africans from Europe were talking together about the issue of reparations. So ADOS is a big white lie that has penetrated, I think, as I said earlier, because we don't read. If we would read more about our history and read how white supremacy, those 9 areas that Dr. Welsing talked about, religion, race, entertainment, it's penetrated that, and we tend to believe like the shadow of our African selves rather than looking at the history of our people.
That's a real good point you're making there. And so that you've got some people in the Caribbean that have actually been confused and think that ADOS is a legitimate representative on reparations. And that's, again, their smart media strategy. One thing I think that needs to happen is that, for example, groups like Black Lives Matter, who I think have done some really good work around not only police issues, but generally mobilizing in support of Black issues at large, they need to link this up with their issues as well, because every front needs to make it clear what reparations is really about. This isn't a question that we had laid out before, but just Raymond, on your background, what are some of the key things that you think that the real reparations movement is calling for as opposed to ADOS? Some of the key points.
Well, see, I think that they're using reparations as a vehicle. It's like, I mean, you could say, well, they influenced Ice Cube. They had some, Gavin Newsom out your way in California signed that legislation to set up a commission, and they're owning some of that stuff. But in reality, they're really pushing the agenda of voter suppression and anti-immigration legislation. Reparations is kind of like a vehicle, So, and if you notice, as Nadia so brilliantly pointed out, ADOS only started in 2016, and this so-called hashtag of tangibles came after that. And it was a way of like saying, okay, we know that Black people want reparations. Let's make that a divisive issue among Black folk, and at the same time, we know white people don't want to even talk about reparations as much as Black folk. So let's make that. So it's kind of a vehicle to further divide Black people and to alienate white people and stuff. I mean, it's a matter, of being very confused about several things that are legitimate struggles within the reparation movement. So if you say, what is the overlap? They're calling for reparations, and it's most of the reparations that they're talking about is cash payment. One of the people, maybe I shouldn't mention his name, but I think I should, is Sandy Darity. He's a professor of economics and somebody that I've known for quite some time at Duke University. And I wrote Sandy about a year ago. I'll make the letter public. And I asked him, why was he connected to ADOS? And so if you read Sandy's new book, which I have, he says that Black folk are owed $6.25 quadrillion, not trillion, quadrillion. There ain't that much money in the whole United States. And so it makes the movement look ridiculous to say, first of all, you ain't gonna give Black folk no $6.25 quadrillion. But by saying that, it trivializes the reparation struggle. And unfortunately, Sandy had been connected with them.
So just summarize basically a few of the key demands of the reparations movement, as opposed to the simplistic cut us a check.
Well, African people in this country, we believe that the government owes us. We also believe corporations owe us. So the reparation struggle, and also individuals owe us. I forgot to say that the reparation struggle has always been about exacting payment for the crimes against humanity from the transatlantic slave trade, always. We are going after corporations. You probably are familiar with Deidre Farmer Paleman's lawsuit in 2005 in the 5th District in Chicago, in which she sued 22 corporations for reparations. Aetna Life Insurance, for example, that used to have insurance policies by slave masters on their enslaved people. So in other words, if one of their enslaved Africans broke a leg, the so-called master would get a payment. Just like if I wreck my car and I've got insurance, I get paid for the damage done to the car. So she sued their governments right now. We've made major victories in Evanston, Illinois right now. That city is now paying reparations to its people. It's happening also in Asheville, North Carolina. and again, is getting ready to happen in Washington, D.C. I'm not free to talk about all of that now, but it's going to happen in Washington, D.C. So it's simply, when we met in the World Conference Against Racism in Durban, South Africa in 2001, we said that we declared the transatlantic slave trade as a crime against humanity and always was, which was key language. And we demand that governments, individuals, and corporations pay for those crimes coming from the transatlantic slave trade, which these corporations, governments, and individuals benefited from. That's a long summary. I hope that helps.
Yeah, it clarifies it more than cutting the check.
Yeah, oh, way beyond cutting a check.
And give us white privileges.
Right.
Have you noticed what Hitler did to the white privileges in Germany? You know what I mean? You got
know more about Germany than I do, but
Yeah.
you got
he had his hierarchy of humanity.
yeah.